Have you ever wondered what event so significant could have ignited the flame of the First World War? Let's take a step back to the 28th of June in the year 1914. This fateful day marked the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand of Austria in Sarajevo. The repercussions of this single act were far-reaching, setting off a diplomatic crisis between Austria-Hungary and Serbia. The assassination was the spark that lit the fuse of a powder keg of international tensions. The diplomatic crisis escalated as Austria-Hungary, emboldened by their ally Germany, delivered an ultimatum to Serbia. When Serbia's response failed to satisfy Austria-Hungary, they declared war, setting off a cascade of alliances and counter-alliances. One by one, nations across Europe, drawn by a tangled web of alliances, found themselves declaring war. This was not just a conflict of nations, but a clash of empires, ideologies, and economies. And thus, the stage was set for the war to end all wars. But who were the key players in this global conflict? Let's dive right in. The First World War was largely fought between two major alliances. On one side, we had the Allies, primarily composed of the United Kingdom, France, and Russia. These nations pooled their resources, their manpower, and their strategic might to counter the threat they faced. On the other side of the battlefield stood the Central Powers. This alliance was mainly formed by Germany, Austria-Hungary, and the Ottoman Empire. Each of these nations brought unique strengths to the table, from the formidable German war machine to the strategic positioning of the Ottoman Empire. Each of these nations, whether part of the Allies or the Central Powers, had a crucial role to play in this war, contributing their own strategies, resources, and will to fight. It was a colossal chess game, with each move impacting the next. These alliances would shape the course of the war, leading to a conflict of unprecedented scale. The First World War was fought on multiple fronts, but what were they? The Western Front, stretching from the English Channel to the Swiss border, was a deadly battleground characterized by trench warfare. The Battle of the Somme and the Battle of Verdun were some of the most significant and bloodiest encounters witnessed here. Switching our gaze eastward, the Eastern Front was no less tumultuous. This vast expanse, spanning from the Baltic Sea to the Black Sea, saw the Central Powers grapple with Russia. The Battle of Tannenberg stands out as a pivotal moment that marked a disastrous defeat for the Russians. And then we have the Italian front. Here, high in the Alpine peaks, Italy and Austria-Hungary clashed in a series of 12 battles known as the Battles of the Isonzo. The harsh terrain and weather conditions added an extra layer of difficulty to this front. The brutality and devastation of these fronts laid the groundwork for the modern warfare we know today. So how did this monumental conflict finally come to an end? As the war raged on, exhaustion and desperation set in. The tipping point came with the signing of the armistice on the 11th of November 1918. This marked a resounding victory for the Allies and a complete defeat for Germany. The end of the war was not the end of the story, though. The Treaty of Versailles, signed the following year, set the terms for peace. Its conditions were harsh, particularly for Germany, demanding exorbitant reparations and territorial concessions. This treaty, while ending the war, sowed the seeds for future conflicts. Post-war Europe was a different place. Empires fell, new nations rose, and the map was redrawn. Economically, the war had devastating effects, with many countries burdened with debt and struggling to rebuild. Thus, the war ended, leaving a world forever changed in its wake. So, what are the key points we should remember about the First World War? Let's start with the spark that ignited the conflict, the assassination of Archduke Ferdinand of Austria-Hungary in June 1914. This event set off a domino effect, leading to the outbreak of a war that would span 4 long years. Next, we recall the alliances that shaped the war. The Allies, comprising nations like Britain, France, and Russia, stood against the Central Powers, which included Germany and Austria-Hungary. These alliances dictated the ebb and flow of the conflict. The war was fought on multiple fronts, the most notable being the Western and Eastern fronts in Europe. The harsh conditions and brutal warfare marked a grim chapter in human history. Finally, we remember the end of the war in November 1918, which brought about significant changes in the world order and left a lasting impact on global politics. In understanding the First World War, we gain insight into the complexities of global politics and the human cost of conflict.